welcome. Welcome everybody. How are you doing today? It's so very nice to have you here. What I keep coming back to in my own practice, in my own sitting, and in sitting with all of you, my students, is the importance of the capacity of the nervous system to be here. And of course, there are many elements that are necessary for awakening, embodiment, and freedom. Birth in a human body, desire for truth, discrimination, which is so important, so important to be able to recognize past for what it is. Trust, and that is trust in presence, trust in our true nature. But the capacity of the nervous system to be here is so key because it is our attachment to and our reliance on the patterns of the past that stops us from awakening, embodiment, and freedom. I often say that capacity of the nervous system to be here is the missing link between our desire for truth and our actual ability to be here, because you might even know presence experientially, or you may understand the teaching, but when it comes to the practical ability, to your practical ability to be here when past arises, and when your physiology, the thoughts, feelings, sensations, emotions are affected by the arising past, the capacity of the nervous system to be here, that is the key that is going to make the difference between past and present. So I want to invite you today into a little practice together. And we are almost in the holiday season, and of course this practice is going to be very helpful here. But I would like for you to do this practice daily, and also do it when past is present, when your attention is lost in the past, when your physiology is affected by the effects of the arising past. And of course, to do the little practice, we really need to start with discrimination, and that means we need to recognize past for what it is. We need to be able to say when unworthiness or doubt or wrongness or not okayness or any other of the challenging or not so challenging states that arise here, we need to be able to see them for what they are, which is the past. That's a very kind, very compassionate willingness to recognize it for what it is. When it arises, this is the past. And then to be practically able, and this is so much of the time when we sit together, we really spend time on this and focus on this in our group calls and in our individual meetings, on this ability to just be here when past is present. So we are going to begin by, remembering or recalling a situation where your physiology is affected by the arising past. This could be a situation that arises often, or maybe it's just something very recent that is still moving in your experience. And the first step, like when we do our practice of inquiry, but the first step is to really recognize the past for what it is. When you are able to say to yourself, when you are able to tell yourself, when you are able to look and say, this is the past. And that makes such a huge difference, because this is not, and this has to be, and it's not meant to be, but it cannot be a judgment, right? The moment you're judging what is, that only makes it stronger, that only gives it energy. So it needs to be an open-hearted, a kind recognition. This is the past. And now that we know what it is, most likely the effects of it, though, are still present in your physiology. And you want to begin by sitting with your eyes open. And by simply noticing the sensations that are present in your body, sensation is such a very direct way to communicate with the nervous system and the brain. So there's no right way to do this, right? Whatever is present, we are not trying to fix or change or understand. We are just curious. We are just coming at it with curiosity of what is present right now. You might also want to notice your feet and your legs. Maybe the weight of your body where you're sitting. Maybe your arms and your hands, you can move them like you can move your legs and feet when you notice them. Maybe your back is leaning against the surface. And all these little elements are here just to help the nervous system to regulate. They are just to give enough information to the brain, to the nervous system, for you to be able to, for the nervous system and brain, to be able to come back into the present. Continuing with your eyes open, you can look around. Again, with the curiosity, this is just information for your brain, where you are sitting, what's going on around in this environment. And even though it may be familiar to you, you really want to freshly in a moment give this information to your nervous system and brain. Good, beautiful. And then notice the effects of that sitting. Notice what has changed in your experience. So often with the capacity of the nervous system to be here, then when the regulation in the nervous system happens, there's instantaneously a shift or an ability to be here, right? And you might notice a change in your perception and really a change in your experience, rather than being pulled into and your attention lost in the arising past. You are actually here. Good, beautiful. So just take another moment here. Good, because most important is to, when we come to rest in present, to just spend a little moment here. So I want to wish you all a very successful practice and a very happy and peaceful and restful holiday season. And I also want to end a very, very happy and healthy new year. And I also want to invite you to join me in our upcoming New Year's intensive on January 1st.